All right, so I'm going to introduce Quincy Markowitz. They are the co-founder of Farm Bird Sanctuary, a bird-only sanctuary with a focus on disabled birds located in southern Wisconsin. In addition to providing sanctuary for 70 plus birds, Quincy engages in community action, including suing a small town that engages in a chicken toss event every year. Yuck. And Quincy has been working with chickens for over 10 years. We're very excited to have them here. Please welcome Quincy.
Yay. Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me. Yes, everyone's hearing me fine. Thank you so much. And I apologize for just getting here a little bit ago. I actually had to drive about 30 minutes away into town to get reception. So that's one of the perks of sanctuary living, if anyone is ticking off pros and cons. So I do have a bit of, and this is Pluto, the most important part. This is Pluto. He's one of my very many roosters that live in the home with us. He was rescued from a cockfighting bust. He's amazing. Yes, you were. So I'm gonna go in, and I apologize, I'm just new to Zoom. So I do have a presentation. You are screen sharing. No. How do I move this? Sorry about this. Thank you. You present. All right. So there we go. Is that working all right? You want to do a thumbs up, Rebecca? You're the only one I can see. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So my presentation is called Living with Chickens and Making Your House Their Home. In my presentation, we are going to just discuss, I know we've already touched on a lot of the bigger farms and things like that. But I want to touch on why it is that we don't think chickens are good house animals, like the lies that have been told to us, and why they are wonderful house animals. This slide features Petra, one of my house hens, and my cat Smudge. So let's see. Oh. There we go. All right. So there's a lot of propagation leading to a lot of myths about chickens. So one of the huge myths that we've already gone over is that farm life is the best life for chickens. So that's really propagated by the industry, all farmers, small, huge farmers, that farmers know what best. That farmers inherently just have a knowledge for chickens because they have thousands of them. But that, of course, is not true. I put money in parentheses because whenever you don't know what's going on, just think about the money and why, there's an industry that profits off of eating chickens in their bodies. So a lot of these lies are really kept going by the industry and by people who, for better or worse, and for worse, want to justify their own speciesism and consumption. So it's not the best for chickens. Chickens generally on farms are not considered worthy of veterinarian care. That's because chickens we've priced at about $1 or $2. So in general, if a chicken gets sick, the most affordable option for farmers is to kill them. And they don't do that humanely because that wouldn't be affordable. So that's one reason that farmers don't know a lot about chickens. There's fear of antibiotic resistance and drugs in their bodies and their eggs. So we've all heard of the antibiotic-free meats and stuff like that, which of course means that people with infections aren't getting the meds they need. And of course that health contradicts production. So the more eggs a chicken is laying, the more profitable they are and the less healthy they are. There's also widely circulated beliefs about Cornish crosses that actually, unfortunately, a lot of vegan advocacy organizations contribute to, such as that they'll die, their legs will crush underneath them and they'll die painful deaths. And the only humane thing is to euthanize them, which of course means the only humane option for a Cornish cross chicken is for them to die, which is exactly what the industry and small town farmers want you to think. So Cornish crosses are literally double breasted. They've been bred to have double the breast on their muscle, so they do get very heavy and over muscled because of that. And then of course, the more eggs someone is laying, the more stressed they are, which opens them up to illnesses coming in or reproductive illnesses. Every time they lay an egg, they're at risk of that, of course. So those are kind of the reasons I think people are nervous to get chickens. But there are a lot of benefits to having house chickens. So a lot of benefits to the chickens. So there we have climate control. So a lot of backyard keepers really try to say that there's cold hardy birds living in Wisconsin. That's unfortunately a line that we hear constantly. Chickens were domesticated from jungle birds, and no matter how many feathers you put on them, that absolutely doesn't change the fact that they are a jungle bird. They are not cold hardy. No one lives in Wisconsin in the middle of winter. That's why we don't have a lot of parasites and a lot of those issues, because no one can live here, including chickens. But I'm not bitter. And then so we can control climate inside. Protection. Free ranging sucks. Chickens are going to die from hawks. They're going to die from raccoons. When we keep them in our homes, or I have like a little town set up. These are my disabled house chickens. So we have like Marie and Cat, who have no feet in the picture. They were in the previous slide as well. Flapjack, one of our disabled Cornish cross roosters, Yam and Petra. And so they don't need a lot of space because they don't move much. They really don't need a ton of space. So they can just go out in their runs, their protected runs during the day, and then we bring them home in the home at night. So they can do very well in small spaces. And again, we want to remember that free ranging is not safe. So having them in the home offers first and foremost safety, which should be their most met need. Vet care. So when we have smaller orgs or individuals keeping animals, are likely to notice a lot more going on with their chickens. Vets are absolutely necessary. We always want to just make sure we recommend going to an exotic vet who knows more about birds, like parrots and things like that, versus a farm vet for the reasons that we already discussed. Farm vets don't know anything about chickens. Individualized care. So of course, being in the home greatly benefits them because they're able to be seen very often and have more options. So there are some chickens that are going to do the best in homes, in my experience. Disabled chickens, again, often because they take more time or have more requirements. This is my disabled chicken Flapjack here, getting a chiropractic adjustment by a vet at the pet store I work at. So, we can do things like that and really like pay more attention, offer softer surfaces. I do want to make a note that we say disabled versus special needs. So you may hear me saying disabled and not something that people are used to. And I just want to make a note that that is the preferred nomenclature by disabled humans, because disability is not bad. It is just a fact. It is not bad. Chickens deserve to live as individuals and people first and foremost. And we work with their disabilities accordingly. Cornish cross chickens can really benefit from like restricted feed and softer surfaces. Those are your like Flapjack in this picture. So they really need restricted feed. Anyone with a chronic or recurring illness that will benefit from climate control, etc. Roosters, not for any particular reason, except for we need people to adopt fucking roosters. So if you can have a rooster, that's the best house animal you can have. They're amazing. I mean, they are amazing. We have a bunch. If you put up with the crowing, it's great. We have 30 roosters that crow in our home and we sleep just fine. So you can do it too. All right, so just a few reasons, and I want to make sure I'm not going, oh no, I'm blabbing fast. I'm not going long. All right, so I apologize. I've never talked into a void. So there are reasons that chickens are more in need of homes. This is Stitch and Stan in one of our indoor runs in our upstairs. So pretty much all of our birds are house birds, if you want to get real, because we set up these runs in our house. So anyways, the reasons that chickens are needing more rescue, more placement is, of course, just animal rights being more on the forefront with things like social medias and vigils, where chickens are even taken from vigils a lot of time or escape. So just more prominent and more rescue opportunities because of that. Sanctuaries and rescuers are needing placement. So, people are telling us more now about dump birds. We've gotten 2 dumped roosters this week. Within 12 hours of each other, we heard about them, one in a state park, one at a gas station. So people, reached out to us, so they know that we're there. They now know that sanctuaries exist. And our sanctuary goes out and tries to catch every dump domestic bird at risk that we possibly can, every rooster, every chicken. It's never hens, so it's pretty much always roosters when they start crowing. So of course, the uptick in backyard chicken keeping means we have a lot of disabled birds and roosters that are being discarded or looking for homes. And a plus is that shelters are now taking in a lot of these animals. So shelters like humane societies, where we typically just see dogs and cats and other small animals being rescued, like hamsters and stuff like that. They're now taking in quote unquote barnyard animals, or they're having barnyards set up, and taking in like owner surrenders and things like that. So there's an increase in chickens needing rescue out there. I'm just going to show you Pluto real quick because it's ridiculous. Look at him. Look how cute. He's just napping. Who doesn't want that? If that doesn't sell you, I think I should just leave it on Pluto for like the next 10 minutes. And if that doesn't sell you to get a chicken in your house, then I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do for you. Anyways, so that is why we have more needing homes. And then I just wanted to kind of end with discussing where we want to adopt chickens from. This is very important to me. So I put sanctuaries and chicken rescues up there first and foremost. This is important to me because sanctuaries are not only taking in animals, we're doing the advocacy work. We're making the social media posts, we're doing things like, everyone here, except for Hope, who does amazing, puts together this webinar and everything, but this is full of sanctuary operators. So we're not only doing animal care and learning the best care and promoting the best care that we can, we're doing webinars, we're doing vegan fests, we're doing all sorts of advocacy. So in my opinion, you should help us because we are challenging the industry so we can get, so when people write us and they want to adopt birds from us, especially roosters, especially ducks, it's amazing. So that really is like a good way to give back if you have room and love, to give back to sanctuaries who in a lot of ways are representing the non-humans. So I really encourage people to check in with their local rescues for that reasons. Shelters are also wonderful for that reason. And then I do have a few ellipses because I like to address so chickens that are being given away on Craigslist, Facebook, well, it's still rescue, and certainly an option to take any animal and provide them a home. A lot of times this just propagate, it just keeps a lot of what we're discussing today going. It gives backyard keepers an out for their roosters when roosters are really a problem that the backyard chicken keeping industry and the humane meat industry should be addressing and talking about. So we don't want to enable people to feel better about exploiting animals. So that's why I always encourage people to really reach out and try to find chickens that rescues have first before looking into other options. So I think that is my spiel, and thank you all for listening to me. And there's Pluto one more time.
Hi, Pluto.
Hey.
All right, so I guess we can go ahead and move into Rebecca once. Quincy, are you able to stop sharing on your screen?
You are shared. Yes.
Perfect.
There we go.
Okay. Hi there. And so I do share screen now.
Yeah, Rebecca, let me introduce you real quick.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So while Rebecca's getting ready for her presentation, let me introduce Rebecca. Rebecca Moore was a performer and musician for many decades in New York City. She's the founder of the Institute for Animal Happiness, a nonprofit chicken rescue in the Hudson Valley, New York State. After working over 10 years at large farm animal sanctuaries, Rebecca found herself repeatedly bringing home chickens who required more special individualized care. Empowered by the micro sanctuary movement, Rebecca turned a small rented backyard into a nonstop busy advocacy hub, fiercely dedicated to a mission of care, activism, and change. The Institute continues to grow and brings together a mix of devotions that fit all into one unique organizational framework: animal rights, intersectional social justice, solidarity, and a dedication to art as a revolutionary force. Rebecca, please take it away.
That sounds so highfalutin. I'm really
Introductions
glad.
are always the worst part.
I just wrote that as a random bio, and I never intended it for this kind of a thing, but thank you. I will now share screen. I'm new at this too, everyone. So, so let's see here. Choose desktop. And then everybody can hopefully see my slide there. So here we go. Oh, I hope I don't make a mistake. Here we go. Technically scary. I have 15 minutes about with this. And I just want to thank everyone, Quincy, I've learned so much from you and admire you, and Hope, everyone here, Justin, you've all been like really incredible inspiration. So when I was asked to prepare for something for today, and the subject being chickens on the couch being deconstructed, who is a companion animal, I really, I'm used to more rattling out facts about chickens and sort of educational stuff about facts about them and what industry experiences they have via animal agriculture. But my only way to kind of think about it made me think, how did I start living with chickens? And I thought I'd lay out sort of the progression in the hopes that anyone out there who wants to perhaps do this could see some commonality and step up. So I'm going to start my little timer here. And how we began, as most things, it often starts with one bird. And it was 2008. And here came this guy, Nelly. So Nelly was this amazing rooster. He was already 6 years old, and his rescuers had rescued him as a baby chick from a county fair. And they saw that he had two really deformed feet and was sort of being left to struggle. But they could no longer care for him. They drove him 11 hours from Michigan to the sanctuary where I worked at a big farm animal rescue in the Hudson Valley. And it was clear he needed really, really special care. And I'll show you a close up. So these were his feet. So they were incredibly deformed from birth defects, and he could only stand on soft surfaces, Quincy mentioned. And he'd been brought with a little pillow, and it was put in the medical building, and he stood on it like a little island in a stall. And it was just clear he needed more socialization. And a lot of times the bigger rescues are taking on these really challenging large-scale rescues. Around the time he came in, 100 birds were due to come in. And so I just thought, let me figure this out. He was crying in the stall by himself, and my office was next door. So I thought, let me try to set him up. I had work to do, and it was a very stressful place. So I was like, I'll just bring him with me on my lap, and he was squiggly. And then I had my first light bulb moment, cat beds. And there were some cat beds around. And I put the cat bed on my desk, and he relaxed into it. And we started having this daily relationship with him sitting on my desk. And so it wasn't like I intended. I didn't like have some animal rights activist thought where I was like, I'm bringing chickens home. Or I really, to be honest, had worked in that vegan sanctuary for about a year already. And even I hadn't been able to, hadn't had the luxury of an individual connection with the birds, because there were so many and there were only 2 people a day taking care of them. But sometimes it is through care and a care experience that we get to know someone better. And so I basically I fell in love. I'm sorry, I made these cute little signs. They said to make it cute and light. So love at first sight, I brought him home. So for anyone out there, I saw some people were asking, like, how do I do this? How do I bring a chicken into my home? Believe me, I didn't know. I grew up in New York City. So my first attempts, I was in a 1-bedroom cottage, were not that inspired. I just made a soft area for him. And, you know, as cushioned as possible. I was at work for long hours. And then he was fine on like grass and soft surfaces. So, you know, he had like an indoor life and he had an outdoor life, but more often than not, he was just hanging out where I was. I don't want to suggest that he was just kept in a cage all the time. I just started to realize that we were companions for each other. We were friends, you know, and through this process of care, I was just getting to know him and chicken so much better. So, you know, basically, you know, that relationship went on, and I just want to show, you know, him hanging out. So he's disabled, he can stand. But again, he needed soft surfaces. So I'd move him from areas to areas or be cuddling with him or have him outside in the grass. Later on, Tina came, and lo and behold, she liked cat beds too. I should preface that I barely had a working computer at that point. This is now by like 2009, 10. In there, I didn't have a smartphone, and I didn't know about Facebook. I wasn't on Facebook. I didn't have Facebook groups. So I was really just making it up and trying to figure it out. So this pen would be the day pen. By now, Larry had shown up. And again, they were in the pen mostly to accommodate Nellie during the day when I wasn't home, because he really had to be on a soft surface. So I tried different things, hay on cushions, et cetera, et cetera. So you find yourself learning about each individual and sort of, you know, just like a human person rising to their needs and likes. So then, you know, now it's cut years later. So starting in 2008, this has been a long journey. So I think this is probably about 2015 or something, 16. You know, we have this room. So this is where they sleep or spend really cold weather days. They also had run to the rest of the house. And it's a really pretty, like a happy space. We started to call it the Chicken Hotel. And I made it this happy place to work. And it was also a revelation to me that, because there's so much, you've heard of compassion fatigue with care, for non-humans that have been through a lot of stress, a lot of strain, and traumas. And, but then also the act of caregiving, I think it really can wear on you. So I do my best, you know, when you're seeing a lot of suffering, I do my best to make the space really positive and full of light. So this is, again, we just a small, you know, this is the biggest room in the house. We have it set up for the feeds you can see over there, and supplies, and there's another pen out of the photo, and then towels. So this is an example of like sort of a sleep and rainy day setup, and then there's the rest of the house. This is another view. So, you know, again, on the subject at hand and showing chickens and how they are in our lives, I started to document just little moments, like Nellie deciding he didn't want to stay in the chicken room and coming out of the house, out through the glass missing in the door, which I didn't know he knew that was there. And so they started to definitely always tell me, I don't really want to be in one area. I want to explore. And Larry lived a long time. He just recently passed at about almost 10 years old. This is just light moments. In winter, we have 2 little bantam roosters, Holland Oats, that were dumped in the area. And my friends, Greg, Goodbrod, and Barton, they're watching, they rescued them. And I just leave towels and sheets or any laundry on the ground. And I turn around and they're having a party. And I was just, loving seeing them, to be honest, be just completely cool living inside a human home. They get outdoor, obviously they have outdoor yards as well, but this was winter. So a lot of times in winter, I'll be honest, winters in the Northeast are very long, very harsh. And so our one concession was like a big TV to like watch movies at night. And then I found that the chickens, especially Blanche, she sits right up front. And I would put on educational programming, nature shows, and you can see she always is sitting there. She'll come from the other room and sit. I started to become like a concerned parent. Like, I don't want my friends watching too much TV, but totally learning about them as individuals, their likes and dislikes, and seeing them as housemates. They're just, sometimes I just really forget we're different species. I'm just feel like they're friends I live with, to be honest. So, then this subject of the presentation made me think, okay, well, what else comes from chickens living in a human home setting? High quality care that can make a really life-saving difference. And if you're sort of a caregiver spirit, and there are some people who do rescue really well, advocacy, everybody has their passion or their heart's work. And I think for me, I've just really love caring and seeing someone be comfortable or well. So I started to get calls about a lot of birds that were disabled or injured. This is Honey, who had frostbite at a local farm, and her foot was lost. The farm called me, they just didn't see veterinary care as being worthwhile. So, I picked her up, and Quincy gave me advice, and it was a 3-month process for her losing her foot. And I honestly feel, because in that 3 months, you're living with someone. It's not a 9-to-5 job or 9 to 7. You're really living with someone, and you're able to see to their needs in this really profound and ever-evolving way. So we tried so many shoes on her stump after she was healed and went through the 3-month process of losing her foot. We finally found this little sneaker that protected her stump enough that she can even go on rocks, because it was getting a little abraded. She can be fine without the shoe. But it was like countless hours and countless days and nights of devising things and trying things. And then I'll go to, this is Squiggy. And Squiggy, there's a little music I couldn't get out of here. I hope it's not annoying. This Squiggy and Lenny were 2 chicks born disabled at a farm in Westchester. And so the traditional wheelchairs weren't quite working. Her legs couldn't even touch the ground. So she would be so inert in this chicken wheelchair. So we made this track, and I found that she really did incredibly well in it, and her legs were splaying out front, which you can kind of see there. And this is the progression of her starting to move those feet and get more and more active. And so it took me a lot of time to devise this and get it right and get the subflooring right. But when you live with rescued chickens, you're living and breathing and thinking of their care all the time. And so at the end, she and Lenny can actually now stand and move around themselves. And so it's a huge difference in quality of life. And it takes a concentrated amount of time and effort to just make these, as for a micro sanctuary without a lot of resources, to come up with these solutions. We're experimenting right now with a zip line, and we use just a traditional sling early on. It's very crude, I know. but this was one form we were working with. Just, she didn't like being held a lot, and she would spend so much time trying to wriggle out of our hands. She wasn't really exercising her legs properly. So the cool thing about this was it gave her more exercise, and we're now constructing a harness for Percy. This was like a week ago. Percy came in recently, and he was a rooster found in at Belmont Raceway by the rescue group Lion. And I think we're developing a real love of trying to create solutions for sweet people like Percy. These are relaxy taxis. These are little things. When I worked at big sanctuaries, we often had to carry in and out a lot of chickens from their indoor areas to their outdoor areas. So, or use dog carriers and things that really just didn't quite ever work or seem to stress them out. And the birds here really love. Now Honey runs to her carrier. She sees it come out. She's like, we're going outside, and she runs to it. So it's very gratifying to just come up with solutions again. This is my house, but for people thinking about, stepping up and bringing any birds, chickens into your home, you can find solutions. Like, this was an old walker in our shed, and it became the perfect foot soak, sling for little Buckles. And he was a rescued Caporo. So we share, like every rescue does share these, successes where they figure things out. I certainly don't want to solely focus on chickens as being needy victims or, dependent souls that we're the heroes of. But I do love sharing the care. And because I think a lot of people still ask me, I didn't know a chicken needed veterinary care or needs some medical support. So that's a big, thing I try to do with our work. So going on, I'm checking my time here. My phone timer is a little slow. Why aren't chickens more often seen as housemates and companions? I had to reflect on that and think, okay, well, there's poop. People think they're about the poop, but it also could be, there's been a long effort by profiteers campaigning to distance humans from getting to know chickens, because then you're getting to know the beings they want to exploit, the people they want to exploit. So I wanted to, I was thinking just for this panel, like, well, what about the poo? I'd never thought about it in this context. And I saw someone in the chat asked about that. This is a wild robin, and while they are, chickens are not descended from wild robins, but I was looking at birds and their habits in the wild. Baby birds, when they excrete, they poop in what's called a poop sack, and the mother bird can just clean it out of the nest. So animals having these reputations as being dirty, it's really one of these human constructs. Chickens being descended from tropical jungle fowl, obviously they could poop over, vast ranges, and it was never an issue. Now, human waste, on the other hand, the history of human waste management, this is one of the oldest sewage systems. It is the one in the world. It's Pompeii, and these are their aqueducts, and those black dots are all the toilets in Pompeii at that time. And here's a modern sewage system. So humans have invested thousands of years and like untold trillions of dollars and resources towards, managing our own waste. And actually we've done a pretty terrible job, and we see it all in the ocean, and, we're polluting ourselves. And so we have this species, this notion that we can, criticize other beings as being dirty or unsanitary. So I reject that, and I'm happy to have chickens in my home. And it's not my home, it's their home, it's our home. To be honest, then my thinking this whole thing is a rambling musing, but I was thinking about, well, what is correct housing that people think for farmed animals, for non-human animals? And, we have the quaint barn, the threadbare sort of structure, barrack-like, stalls, rusted waters. These are all accoutrements of the farming world. And have wonderful, people just wax poetic about seeing that barn or that, coop. And to me, I feel like I had to ask, is it really quaint? And I was asking this even at sanctuaries, to be honest. I was like, is it even adequate? Or is all of this hearkening to something truly oppressive and just sort of, it really made me think, like, I want to get away from all of this, the iconography of farms and everything. So why rescue someone from an oppressive system and structure, just to place them back into another place that resembles those same accommodations and that same system and structure. And these are the kinds of things I think about when now having brought chickens into the house where we live together, and I see all of our commonalities and also all of our differences in how incredible and totally badass they are, and intelligent and wise. So with the Institute, I'm definitely, we're trying to get away from everything farm and we're okay with that. Not the outdoors and not being out in nature, but just getting away from that. Individuality and individual care can be diminished in a crowded, competitive, and stressful setting. So the beauty of doing this in your home is, you if you step up, you might have, just one or two, but you're making a huge difference and a huge impact in their lives. Everyone's personal expressiveness, amplifies and grows when they're seen, listened, heard, understood, appreciated, included, and loved. So by making your home into a micro sanctuary and sharing that space, you are doing that for someone. And I have to say that everyone here, it's not their job to teach me every bird, every chicken. It's not their role. They don't have to do anything for me, but accidentally, I have learned more from them than pretty much anyone. So I encourage everyone to think about, the speciesism of who's a companion and who's a family member, to be honest, who's a friend, and who we can make space for. We only have a half acre here. We don't own it. We're renters, and we actually have to move in about a year. But like, you can do this. There's great resources like Micro Sanctuary Resource Center, Triangle Chicken Advocates, Farm Bird Sanctuary. Everybody's really there to share info on vegans with chickens on Facebook. There's so much, and there's still a need for innovation, revolution, deconstruction, dismantling, and creating equity for all involved in sanctuary spaces, big and small, and for humans and non-humans. And so I believe that, helping chickens is one way we can really actively take part in a lot of change. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. That was incredible. I have to say, I really love your PowerPoint. All the pictures and the movement, and you did a great job.
Well, everybody brings their heart and their life experience to this. And to be honest, I gave up art to do this, but I find I'm an insomniac, and at night, if I can put a little creativity into a PowerPoint, it makes me connect with that again. So I love colors and thank you.
Sure. Well, we do have some questions, and I think more are going to come in. And one was, why did Buckles need a foot soak?
Oh, thank you. And so many people had talked a lot of facts, a lot of ethics, and I knew I was going last. I figured everybody'd be like, to hear about, but a lot of chickens can be prone to pressure sores or foot infections. It's a lot, it has to do with how they've been bred to be too heavy, but you give them little foot soaks, and you can definitely heal that. But it's a common thing. It's one of the things that you have to check for if you want to be a really good companion to your friends and make sure they're as healthy as can be. You do what's called we call them chicken checks. And once a month, you just sort of pick everyone up and check their beak, their feet. I love doing it because I think they're a little, they like, just being cared about. I think being seen, being held, being recognized.
Yeah, I'd love to invite Quincy back. Quincy, where'd you go? Are you there? Yay!
Hey, here I am.
All right. Justin, do you see any questions you want to?
Yeah, there's actually a really interesting one. The question is, do those who live with chickens and or have a micro sanctuary think it's possible to have a full-time out-of-home job and take care of our chicken friends as well? Yeah, I know, Quincy, you can probably have a good perspective on this.
Me too, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure you both do.
Yeah, so my partner and I both work full time. So yeah, you can work full time and do a sanctuary. It's we have close to 70 birds, and with working full time, it's pretty much the entirety of our life, which we love. Mostly, obviously, there's like there's sacrifices. We can't go on vacations really, things like that. So yeah, it's possible, and to be honest, probable that you're going to have to keep your job. There isn't a ton of money flowing in for sanctuaries. Like we are lucky enough to get enough donations to defer some of our costs, but like we're absolutely nowhere near getting where we would ever be able to pay ourselves. So
yeah, if I may say, I've had I've had full-time jobs just until maybe about a year and a half ago, but then I've created full-time work now. I work for myself, but and my partner, I do some work for his full-time job. They have small freelance jobs, and then we did start the local vegan festival to be twofold, to help bring education to this area, and it does help bring in funds for the chickens, but I have to take other work all the time. But it is the first time in the last year and a half, and I'm 53. I finally got, after doing this for so many years, I'm not doing another full-time job elsewhere anymore, but I'm still, and I don't know, Quincy, how you do. You're phenomenal. I mean, you're like amazing, because I have 14 birds, and it's about, I don't have, they are in our care. Sorry, I'm sometimes not so great with the language, but I'm trying to be better. But it's about 5 or 6 hours a day for, I would, but everybody can do 1 or 2, and that is doable with a full-time job, absolutely, and even a few more. But you get better and better at it, and you find ways to keep the quality of life you want. That is critical.
All right, awesome. So there was a question, it kind of went through the chat, and now it's come back again in the questions about chickens and litter boxes and the poop in general. And you cover that a bit, Rebecca, in but I don't know if you want to go into a little more detail about diapers and things like that. There were questions about diapers and poop cleanup, and if they can be litter box trained. So maybe a little more about that.
Quincy, do you want to go first, or do you have anything?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess I would say the main thing is for litter boxes, don't put a chicken in a litter box. They will. We use a litter made of corn. Woo, it is delicious. So we don't have our chickens anywhere near litter boxes. So no, that is not an option. We do some diapers. There are some amazing diaper companies, but to be quite, okay, this is what Pluto's got going on now. Check this technology out. There's his butt. There's the paper towel. So I don't care that much. I find wiping up a poop to be pretty easy. Chickens tend to have like pretty solid poops until it's cecum time, and cecum time is like 5 p.m. like sundown. It's on when you don't want anyone pooping on your furniture like during the night, or like right at evening is usually and cecum is like fermented poop. So they do have some disgusting poops, but most of them are like pretty easy bird poops, and I don't mind. I really don't mind cleaning them, but I have 70 birds living in my house, so
I would say there's a ton of cleaning. But again, not if you have one or two. I mean, Quincy has a really large family, and so I'm sure you're working your butt off. But I would say you creatively problem solve. So you saw the pictures that I showed. There are large pans for if I do have to go out and be at work and it's a bad day. But when they're out watching TV or roaming around the whole house, I buy these very cheap, they're bedspreads that are like for pet people with pets. I hate that word, but you can buy them on Amazon, throw them down the floor. I just discovered Splat Mats, which are for messy toddlers, human toddlers. They work great with chickens. And the bedding that was in those nighttime pens, they can poop away, and I just scoop it out and throw it away. We have a compost, but you can also just pick out the dirty stuff per day. And for those out there, I did just discover a new bedding. Oh my gosh, it's recycled cardboard cubes. It's like it's low dust. It's almost no dust. It's the first one that says it's no dust that actually is. So it's changed my life here. So it's, easy to have. Those were kiddie swimming pools. And that's just for while you're at work. If it's big enough, and there's enrichment, or you'll find that they love cozy spaces too, not forever. You don't want to be locked in a small place, but when they know they're home here, they know this is home, and they know they're loved and they're given so much care. So if I have to go to a job for 2 hours, they're in the pen, and it can be done. So you can go to work and keep it clean.
All right. There is a question about roosters crowing and possibly disturbing neighbors. And so that is something that would need to be addressed if you are in a more urban or suburban area and there are people around. What is your advice around that?
Well, first thing, you do have to know you're in a place zoned for roosters. That's very important. Lots of places are. And you can also, and house roosters are great because of this, because they are indoors. So if they crow, they're really not bothering your neighbors that much. Just keep them in at key hours, keep them indoors. But crowing is something I love the sound. I feel joy waking up to it. I think it's just depending on the individual.
Yeah, some of ours crow. I always do say that the smaller the rooster, the louder the crow. So whenever people get like a bantam rooster and they're like, oh, I got a house rooster, I'm like, huh. Yeah, so that's one thing. Pluto's actually got like a very low crow that you can't hear much. The main thing to consider with roosters crowing is even if you're zoned where you can have roosters, you can still be subjected to noise complaints. So that's something that I always want people to know, because that you can still get noise complaints so definitely check in with your neighbors. I lived in the city with roosters for a couple years. All my neighbors around me knew, and we talked about it, and it was still a stress that I wouldn't really recommend people putting on themselves. If you have a really, when we had a basement that was really soundproofed and stuff, you can make it work, but you also want to make sure the main thing is if crowing is a deal breaker, then crowing's a deal breaker, done. Same with if cats having claws is a deal breaker, you don't declaw them, you don't get a cat. So that's kind of my view on roosters is we don't want to be putting collars on them. We don't want to make them feel guilty for crowing. It's a very natural behavior. So that's one thing that if you don't want crowing all day long, because they crow most in the morning. That's that's where they get you. But they crow all day. They crow all day. So if crowing's an issue, roosters may not be for you.
Yeah, I have to say I have 1 or 2 hens that are louder than any rooster
Yes.
here. Oh my gosh, Blanche.
Yeah, the hen screaming.
Blanche, the one you saw who enjoys Teletubbies. Oh, she is quite demanding nonstop. And she puts roosters to shame as far as how loud she can be. So, I just want to encourage folks to step up. So in an emergency and try to respond and take someone, and just know that like we're all community. If something doesn't work out, we would all network and help. You know, so much of what we do is behind the scenes. This week, there was a rooster abandoned in Poughkeepsie. I couldn't get there, but I networked with another activist. She went and got them. We sent over money for all the early vet care, and then we have this happening all the time. We're all helping, and so it's great if you see a rooster, help them, and then we'll all jump in.
Well, I would love to pose the question to you both to maybe just expand on it a little, and that is the question of the panel, the general question of the panel: how can we dismantle who we see as a companion animal? What can we do? And I think a lot of the answer to this, in my mind, is what you all do on social media. And we haven't really talked about that, but I think it's an important part of all this, is to show the stories if you can and if you're comfortable with that. But telling and showing the stories of the animals, of the chickens, so that everybody knows the joy that you are experiencing having these lovely beings in your home. But how can we dismantle this view that there is a narrow species list of animals that are companion animals, and it's limited to these species? And when you're talking about other species, like chickens, like rats, like a lot of other species that are wonderful in the home, that they're not seen as, no, these are dirty, these are animals that can't be in homes. And you both kind of talked about this a little bit, but I don't know, I kind of want to give you the opportunity to maybe expand on it a little if you have anything more to say about it. And also maybe talking about your social media presence and what your social media handles are, so we can find you, because that's what I love. The social media aspect. I have friended all these micro sanctuaries, and that's what I want my feed to be filled with, is the stories of all the, what everybody's little treat that they want to eat, and I love that stuff. So yeah, so if you want to expand on that a little bit, I would love that.
Well, certainly through opportunities like this, but I have to say, again, we have zero budget. We are a micro sanctuary, mostly self-funded. And so, social media really kind of is it, I have to say. And in community, like I share a lot in community, trying to do presentations in local libraries and stuff. But the power of social media, I know a lot of people are down on it, and Facebook and all, but I am looking at the positive all the time of that. And a lot of those clips you saw, I would just be documenting the joys at home, and you share it, and you'd be surprised. It does, I think, if shared the right way with sort of the right ethics, I think you do I think micro sanctuaries, especially activists like Quincy, Anissa, Justin, Rosemary, these people are posting all the time, just very beautiful, ethical sharings about chickens, and it does cause change. And I believe the reason that, I'll just say this, I believe the reasons that some of the bigger sanctuaries are seeing, like they said, more change with birds, is a lot of the smaller the groups and small micro sanctuaries for chickens have really, I mean, and I'm not even talking about mine at all. I'm so impressed with the work that everyone's doing. I go into Vegans with Chickens, which is the Facebook group, and you learn everybody's doing such incredible work at the micro sanctuary level, and not just good quality care, but I've learned so much from all of them. So I think social media can't be underestimated for this. We're forcing images and documentation and sharing out into the public of chickens as these full beings, full lives, fully developed, individual, autonomous beings. We're educating about them. And I've certainly, since 2008, seen the change. I've seen the change, definitely. So I stay hopeful.
Yeah, I would say social media plays an important role, definitely putting it out there. I also think I see, and again, I don't think the focus should be, of course, on educating humans, like the non-humans, have every right to sometimes you're going to rescue a chicken that doesn't ever want to look at a human, and that's fine too. But those, like, when we have chickens, like Pluto is someone who benefits very much from human interaction. We've tried to pair him with hens before, and he doesn't like them. He just ignores them until a human comes along. So he actually, the main thing I would say that we do together that really changes people is I do work full-time at an animal supply store, and he works with me. So he's always there with me. He's always on the counter. He knows not to interact with dogs. Like, we have him on the counter. He's very protective from dogs. He knows to go into his crate when a big dog comes in, even in the store. But that is people meeting. I mean, people love him. Again, I feel like I should just talk about him. Like, people just think he's really amazing, and people ask questions, and I can say, well, he's rescued from cockfighting. Everyone's like, oh, that's a bummer. They always say, oh, I can tell, but he's just molting. So 3 years ago, he was rescued from cockfighting. So no, you can't tell. He's just molting. But people always say they can tell because he's always molting so heavy. So molting is when they drop their feathers. And Pluto always drops a lot of his feathers at a time. Anyways, the moral of the story is people at the store love him, non-vegans, people that just have never interacted with roosters. And it gives me a chance to just tell the truth, just tell his truth. That's the most important thing we can do, is tell their truth. People, oh, I knew a rooster once, he attacked me. Well, it's probably because you were taking the hen's eggs, and they were alerting the rooster that they didn't like something you were doing. So he came in to protect the hens and things like that. So it just gives an opportunity for education. If you want to pet his wattles, you're gonna get some truth bombs, and you want to pet his wattles. So it works. It's a win-win.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'd love to know, maybe kind of as a wrapping up question from each of you, if you can maybe say a little bit about how you think caring for chickens made you better activists and advocates, like for veganism, for chickens, for ending animal agriculture, like however approach you want to take to it, but like I'm really would love to know like how that direct relationship of caregiving and building bonds at your sanctuaries and micro sanctuary, like how that you feel like transitioned into you being an activist.
Yeah, I can go first. I think you're muted, Rebecca.
Yeah, Quincy, do you want to go ahead and go?
Sure. Sorry, what was the question? So I became an activist because of a chicken called Sunny that I met 11 years ago. I was a vegan for years after knowing him. It took a while to click, but I fell for chickens really hard. So I would say that they're absolutely the reason for my activism. I went to Chicken Run Rescue pretty early on, and Mary, who is like my mentor and who I've been working with for years, told me point blank, you can't rescue and love chickens and eat eggs. And I was just like, what? Like, how would she say that to me? And then on the way home, that was when I gave up eggs and went vegan, because it just like really clicked. So I think for me, it's all chickens. There was never anything. Oh, that's so corny. There's never anything before chickens. There wasn't. There was never. there wasn't activism or a lot of that they taught me about. They're the reason I'm like radical in my human rights views. They've taught me everything. They're amazing, and I just can't. Once you know them, once you love a chicken and get to know them, it's they're not as intuitive, I feel like, as a lot of other non-humans that are more like us. So once you learn to read a chicken's face, it's just like they make facial expressions. So that's it. That's my answer. It's all chickens. Sorry. It's all birds all the time.
Echoing everything Quincy was so eloquent to say, I think that I thought I was an animal rights, animal liberation, vegan activist before meeting Nellie. I will say, grew up in New York City, and at age 10, I did meet a chicken at camp, and I stopped eating meat. But this was my response as a fairly young person to just like, I don't want to eat that being, but I didn't have any of the vegan education. Then I got that and went to work at a vegan sanctuary. And then I think I can't even begin to say how, if the question is how they've changed us and our activism as vegan activists, it's so profound. It really is almost astonishing. Like once you bond and meet them on their terms as individuals and start to open up to their experiences, it honestly breaks down so many other layers as a vegan activist of oppression and exploitation that I did not even see. And it's sort of too big a thing to even lay out here, but the act of bringing Nellie home was fairly revolutionary at the time where I worked, and a statement. And then it really literally transformed my thinking, not just about the rights of Nellie and his kind and his people, but like myself as a vegan activist and whose oppression I was noting and whose I wasn't. And it's just so profound. And to this day, it continues to be that way. I do want to say that I think as land animals, I want to speak out for lab animals. There's no actual known statistics about how many of them survive. So chickens are definitely the top. But we have no idea how many lab mice and lab rats are, as land animals, are extinguished as well. So my heart is really with the ones made most invisible in this sort of tidal wave of annihilation that we've somehow managed to hide. It's profound. Like, how can you hide 68 billion lives being extinguished? So with chickens, if people connect with chickens, they will connect to that. And that is the scariest, most profound thing. And it's transformative for society. So it's really critical.
Well said, really well said. I think we're probably going to wrap it up there. I think, Justin, yeah. Really incredible presentations and work that both of you are doing. Thank you, Quincy. Thank you, Rebecca. Just really inspirational. I loved it all.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And two just quick things, if you want to put them in the chat. Rebecca, you got a question about the cardboard bedding. If you could maybe give somebody tips on that or where you get it. And also on your prayer flags, a couple people commented on your prayer flags behind you. And I know that you're going to have those soon because I've asked about those in the past, and they're coming up in like a week or something that you're going to have this available, right? Yeah, you're muted, darling.
She's muted, yeah.
I have so much ADHD. I have the chat mostly off because I can't follow. They are really handmade by the original Tibetan flag makers, third generation family that we got to partner with. And they made them because the cause was in line with their beliefs. It was really an amazing experience. So they'll be on our website. Thank you for inquiring. They're not there yet.
Well, maybe put that in the chat with what your website is and where people can find them coming up. I think it's in about a week or so, you said?
Thank you. And this is an example of a creative way we pay for our vet care. Because again, we don't have a lot. We have some really wonderful small individual people, but so it's one of the creative ways you can cover animal care. And one last thing that's critical is we try as a small micro sanctuary not to link. I don't fault anyone for doing this, but the whole rescue an animal for money relationship makes me so uncomfortable, but people have to do that a lot of times to raise money for care. But I encourage people to find other means, however possible. There's a lot of creative ways we can fundraise to cover veterinary care. So.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all so much for being here, for experiencing this with us all together. And I'll say a couple of people mentioned Karen Davis, and I did want to just say, yeah, it's true. She pioneered this. She started a chicken-focused sanctuary in 1990 before anybody cared. So it's amazing that her inspiration and her work and her pioneering built us to this place 30 years later, where we can have a chicken webinar with 250 people signing up for it. So how beautiful is that? It's wonderful to see the trajectory that we're on, and how in hopefully 30 years in the future, it's going to be even better for chickens because of the work of everybody, the panelists, everyone that's listening, everyone that's inspired by this. Justin, thank you so much for your help with this. He has been instrumental in co-producing this webinar, and I want to send it over to him to see if he has any final thoughts.
Yeah, sorry, it started to downpour here, so hopefully you were, you won't be able to hear that. Yeah, I know, I just wanted to echo everything that you said, Hope, and thank also all the panelists who came. I always love doing these chicken webinars because I feel like I get to chat with folks who I think are do amazing work, and also learn new things that I didn't know before myself. And yeah, I really huge shout out to everybody who was on today, who is doing the sanctuary and caregiving work. These are folks that we interact with a lot through the Vegans with Chickens Facebook group, which I highly encourage anybody who's interested in chicken rescue to join. And you know, folks have done a lot of work as well for building up the awareness of micro sanctuaries. So thank you, Rebecca and Quincy, for all of that. So yeah, no, it's amazing. I'm really excited that so many people continue to be interested in learning about chickens. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. It was a really wonderful experience. We will be having the videos available, so if you missed one of the speakers or you want to share them with your friends, please do, and share them on your social media pages. We will have the individual speakers on video up at the humanehoax.org website, as well as UPC's website. So they'll be in both places very soon as Justin can do it. Thank you, Justin, for dealing with that. He deals with all that. Yeah, it's just incredible. And we appreciate your love and respect and your desire for justice for chickens. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.